everybody, I'm Jammer. It's safe to say that the Smash community is in a little bit of a weird crisis moment right now with the announcement of the final Fighter Pass DLC character being Byleth from Fire Emblem Three Houses. So, yep, a lot of people are pretty upset. So, I thought it'd be smart today to just not even talk about that at all, and talk about something that's really good that came from this direct, and that was, of course, the announcement of a Cuphead Mii Fighter costume for, well, coincidentally, again, the Mii Gunner. Mii Fighters have always been a thing that have been quite overlooked in the community, or have been deemed as deconfirmations of previous characters. But the first character to really set that trend askew was, of course, when the announcement of Sans over last summer. And now with the addition of Cuphead coming along with his own musical track, just like Sans, I really hope this opens up the door to more opportunities of really unique Mii Fighter costumes that really get people excited. Because what I think it really boils down to is how these Mii Fighter costumes receive treatment compared to other ones. These ones are treated with respect because they, not only do they have a presence that comes with them, considering they both come with an additional song that can be added to the game. But I think more than that, it's the design of the Mii costume itself. It isn't a Mii cosplaying Sans or cosplaying Cuphead, where, you still see the Mii face coming through and there's maybe like the Cuphead on top of his head. Or it's not just like the Sans jacket and shoes and whatever, and then for the headpiece, it's just like a cutout with like the Sans silhouette of his head, but like you still see the Mii's face. I think that's what's really strong about these two Mii Fighter costumes, is that the fact that like when you play as the Sans with the Cuphead Mii Fighter, it looks just like if Sans or Cuphead was actually in Smash, and is being treated as such. Not only through the community, but through the lens of like how it's being presented. The little blurb right before showing off when Cuphead was announced, it like shows how Cuphead was invited to Smash. It's not just saying, oh, here's a Mii dressing up as Cuphead. It's acting as if Cuphead really is coming to the game. So now with Cuphead being our second Mii Fighter along the lines of kind of like this, it kind of got me thinking of what kind of other characters could we see come down the lines as? What other indie characters? What other characters that maybe probably won't get an entire full-blown character slot in the next Fighter Pass, but would serve great justice to have its own Mii Fighter costume. I thought it'd be kind of fun to kind of just go through some more Mii costumes that potentially could come to the game and would be well received, and yeah, let's just talk about Mii's. First one to mention is actually Mii Fighters that are already in the game, but with extension of that could be potentially more characters. And that is, of course, the Tails and the Knuckles Mii Fighter costumes. It comes back to what I was just barely talking about previously. Those costumes are just like Mii's dressing up as Knuckles and Tails. If it was like a full-blown Tails and Knuckles costume, I think it would be much more well received, and people would be actually excited that it feels like these additional Sonic characters are in the game. But the fact that it's Tails' head over top of a Mii's head, and, it just feels like it's a Mii dressing up as Tails rather than you're playing as Tails. So I call for a redo, and I would love to see them redesign the Sonic and Tails Mii Fighter costume, or adding in a brand new headgear version that's like a full helmet of Knuckles' head or Tails' head. Well, that's not very likely, but extension off of that, they really could revisit that and bring more characters from the Sonic series. It's not likely that in this next Fighter Pass, we're gonna get an additional Sonic character. I'll just go off on record and say that right here. But it would be kind of cool to get a full-blown costume of other Sonic characters. Maybe a Silver costume, Amy Rose, Charmy the Bee. That would be perfect. There's a massive catalog of characters that would really suit well as a Mii Fighter. But if they do bring them in, please don't make it as like a Mii dressing up as the character. That's just, I'm done with that. No more of that. But let's get into some new characters. First, it's a simple idea, but I think it'd be kind of cool if we had Koopa Troopa as a character. With the fact that Piranha Plant, a basic enemy from Mario, made it in the game, there's no exclusion saying that there couldn't be more characters like that later down the road. Koopa Troopa is one of the most iconic Mario enemies ever, in exception to probably the Goomba, but I mean, if they did end up doing a Goomba costume, it might be just the head, because obviously, proportions-wise, it doesn't make sense that he has a full human body coming out of his head. So that's why I kind of proposed Koopa Troopa, where he'd be in his little shell costume and have a full helmet that has, like, his cute little eyes and face. Another costume I'd love to see is a costume for Shovel Knight. We have Shovel Knight as an assist trophy, and it is amazing to see any sort of Shovel Knight representation in Smash. But I kind of still want to play as Shovel Knight in a way. And I think his character would really suit well to, being a non-cosplaying Mii, where he could wear the full Shovel Knight helmet, as well as the gear, and be a swords fighter Mii using, of course, his shovel. They could go even further beyond that and include some of the other playable characters in the campaigns, like King Knight, Plague Knight, whatever, but most likely, if they're gonna bring a Mii Fighter costume for Shovel Knight, it'll be just this singular character, similar to, you know, just Cuphead's in and not Mugman, and just Sans in and not Papyrus. It's a crime that Shovel Knight has spirits and an assist trophy in the game, but there's no Shovel Knight music. So that's kind of what I actually want the most from this Shovel Knight Mii Fighter costume, because we need some Shovel Knight music in Smash. Another first-party series they could bring more costumes from is, of course, Pokemon. People always love the new Pokemon that are represented in Smash, and I think while later down the road we might actually get another brand new representative from Pokemon from the newest generation, beyond that, I could see them also doing some Mii Fighter costumes. Which character Pokemon they could do? I don't know. They could do maybe like a Machamp, or I guess more likely a Machoke for the fighter. For a swordsman, they could do Scyther, maybe, I guess. I don't know what characters would make the most sense as Mii Fighter costumes, actually, but I think there's definitely a place to explore there with being able to, you know, include more playable Pokemon in Smash. Now, for another third-party character, I could see them maybe doing, like, a costume for Dig Dug. While I don't think he really has the chances to be a full-blown character, I think it'd be cool to have some more Namco representation in Smash. I think Dig Dug could be a really great choice, and is a simple enough character design to make sense for a Mii Fighter costume. Kind of building off that, I think another character that would work well as a Mii Fighter would, of course, also be Bomberman. He, again, also like Shovel Knight, does appear as an assist trophy, but again, as another character, it feels like I would love to play as Bomberman. While yes, he does have such a unique moveset of just, you know, placing bombs around that, like, there's no Mii that necessarily could represent that perfectly, but that's kind of not the point. I think it'd be really cute to have a actually true Bomberman costume playable as well. Alright, these last set of Mii Fighter costumes are the big ones. These are the ones that not only do I think is realistic to actually happening, but are also kind of big third-party picks, in both indie and third-party, that could potentially be viewed as a disappointment not being a full-blown character, but to me, might make more sense as probably a Mii Fighter costume before we would see anything as a full-blown character from these series. The first character being Hollow Knight. I think this is probably actually my #1 wanted Mii Fighter costume. Because I don't think it's likely that Hollow Knight's going to become a full-blown character, but I would just still love to see that game somehow represented in Smash. He's another one of those indie darling characters that I personally see up there with characters like Cuphead and Sans. Those golden characters of the community, the games that people really love. But dude, having Hollow Knight music in Smash would just be perfect. I think his character would really suit well as a Mii sword fighter. Yes, proportionally, he's kind of a stubby guy. I think they could just make the cloak long enough on the Mii to kind of emulate, but not show as nearly much as the humanoid body that would be the character that, you know, the Mii Fighter costume. I think it could still really work. The next one's a controversial one, and that is Steve from Minecraft. I know a lot of people are just so against the idea of Minecraft having any representation in Smash, specifically as a full-blown character. And while I personally think that Minecraft definitely deserves a spot in somewhere in Smash because it's just such a gaming titan, you know, perhaps having a full-blown character doesn't make the most sense because overall, Steve is just a kind of a weird character, and of course, I'm sure Sakura and his team could build a very unique moveset for him, and I'm sure he'd be great. I'm sure it would be unlike any other character. At the same time, he's just kind of a wonky character, you know? He's like, and I feel like because of his stiff movements in the game, it'd be hard to emulate that in Smash, because if they give him more a dynamic feeling and moving to the character, it wouldn't feel like the actual character himself. So perhaps the solution to that being is, you know, it's a Mii Fighter dressing up as Steve, so then, you know, if you have the more dynamic animations and movement, it's kind of, you can extend there's an extension of disbelief there, where it's like, oh, it's just kind of the Mii representation, rather than if you see Steve, who's typically, you know, stiff and walking like this, all of a sudden, like, running and having, like, dynamic movement, it would just feel really odd for some, you know, it would just be a really odd transition, especially if, like, if he was a full-blown character, he's supposed to be representing the actual Steve rather than just being a costume. Anyways, I think it would make a lot of sense as a Mii Fighter costume, especially if he could just use a diamond sword and be a Mii sword fighter. Alongside that, I could definitely see them also doing, like, a creeper head, like, for the Mii Fighter costume or whatever. I don't see, like, a full creeper costume. Potentially, I don't know. But I could definitely see something along the lines coming with that, too. And again, we would get Minecraft music in Smash. Guys, you don't realize how important this is. Now, this is kind of an odd one. I think the Dragonborn from Skyrim, his armor suit could be a really great Mii sword fighter costume, because realistically, I don't think a Skyrim character or an Elder Scrolls character is going to make it as a full-blown Smash character. But it really would be cool to see Nintendo work with Bethesda and bring in that Skyrim music. And in this case, though, I think this would be one of the Mii Fighter costumes that would actually show the Mii's face. Unless you did like a full Daedric armor set where you're actually covering the entire face of the character. But if you did the more iconic Dragonborn armor where it's like the horned helmet, you know, I think it would really suit well as a Mii Fighter costume, because then, you know, Skyrim's in Smash, but it's not a full-blown character. And I guess while we're on the topic of Bethesda characters, I think the other characters that would make a lot of sense also as a Mii Fighter would of course actually be the Doom guy from Doom. And I know there's a lot of people really wanting him as a full-blown character, but I think the reason that doesn't make as much sense as a Mii Fighter, in my personal opinion, is just because of the violent nature of that character. It's kind of, it's like, it's, you know, it's built into that character's personality. And so if you really, you know, water him down and make him PG rated, it doesn't feel nearly as Doom guy as it should, if that makes any sense. So it kind of comes down to the idea of if he was a Mii Fighter costume, he could be more cartoonified, and obviously his guns and weapons would shoot just the lasers and stuff that the Mii Fighter costume shoots, you know. Rather than if he was a full-blown character and he, you know, wasn't shooting his traditional weapons, wasn't nearly as graphic or gory, or just felt super toned down to his, you know, what he originally is, it would feel like a weak representation of the true Doom guy if they made him a full-blown character. While I feel like they can get away with it a lot more, being more cartoony, being more simple or whatever, as a Mii Fighter costume, if that makes sense. The next character hurts for me to say, but who knows? We'll see what actually happens, but Geno potentially could be a Mii Fighter costume yet again. Perhaps this time around, not being, you know, just a Mii Fighter hat and you have to use a Mii's face to kind of emulate what Geno looks like. This time around, I'm saying it's like a full Geno helmet, looks like his face and everything. The costume itself is fine as it is, but I think, you know, the helmet definitely needs some changes. I think this would be not received with nearly as much praise as Sans and Cuphead's and other characters on this list, because I think people really want him as a full-blown character. And especially with the absence of his previous Mii Fighter costume, it's kind of building up anticipation in that way. So if they just came out the door with another Mii Fighter costume for Geno, this time with, you know, a different helmet basically, I think it would be met with a lot of criticism. The reason I even bring it up is because it is a potential idea of what they could do with the character if for some reason making him a full-blown character just doesn't work out. It's a potential option. I don't think it's the best, but maybe. And the final character, people are absolutely gonna hate me for saying this, but unfortunately it's likely, because unfortunately it's yet another indie darling. And that's Freddy Fazbear from Five Nights at Freddy's. I know. Truly don't want it either. But I'm just kind of looking at the facts. The Five Nights at Freddy's games are on Switch, for that matter. They are really big indie titles over the years. So yeah, resorting Freddy Fazbear to a Mii Fighter costume unfortunately makes a lot of sense. I don't want it, and I don't think it's very likely. I think there are plenty of other characters on the list I just barely went through that are not only more deserving of the slot, but actually would be much better received by the community. But the truth of the matter is I could see it happening, so I gotta put that in there. What kind of true Mii Fighter costumes do you want to come down the line? Let me know in the comments below. How the community has received both Cuphead and Sans, it really excites me for the potential of actually really good Mii Fighter costumes. I think it's a really great way to represent characters that potentially probably won't become a full-blown fighter, but we can really emulate well with a well-done Mii Fighter costume, where it's not just a Mii dressing up as said character. I'd love to hear some of your ideas in the comments below. Be sure to give this video a big awesome like. If you haven't already, definitely subscribe for tons more on Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Thanks again, guys, so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya!